Hi, this is Jeff Lowe, and today I have the privilege of interviewing Chris Buie, the author of the new book, The Life and Times of Donald Ross. All right, so give us an overview of the book.
Overview of the book. It's a biography, straight ahead biography of Ross. It goes chronologically from his birth in Dornoch, which is in the very north of Scotland. Of course, it follows his young years there, then he gets into golf, he goes to be an apprentice in St. Andrews, old Tom Morris, and then to Carnoustie, then he comes back, he's the pro at Dornoch, and then he meets a Harvard professor, he goes to the United States, and then his career mushrooms. And most people know that part of the story. It's a matter of trying to give a monolith or an icon a personality, or to see, just to have a look and see what he was like. I didn't have any grand preconceptions of what I wanted it to be. It was more interesting than I thought it was going to be. He was more interesting than I thought he was going to be. So the book became elaborate and involved. The main thing I would say is that his place in history has been prolific architect. Pinehurst is his home, and that's been his place in history. But that's not correct, or that's only a part of the picture. He was involved in everything, and he was proficient in everything. He worked hard. He worked a lot. But basically, he was involved in every aspect of the game. And the North-South Open was pretty much the template for the modern American tournament. It was the Masters before the Masters. So he was involved in agronomy, how to run a tournament.
Club making.
How to design a course. He was a player. He finished in the top 10 in the U.S. Open 4 times. He was leading the British Open after 3 rounds at St. Andrews. They threw the 3rd round out because it was so stormy. He shot 77 in this terrific storm, as bad a storm as you can imagine up there, and it was a phenomenal round. And after that, it was almost a high point of his playing. They just threw it out. So he ended up finishing 5th. And that had a lot to do with the North-South Open, because with everything, he was, if things weren't done right, he did not like that visceral sense of disapproval. He didn't yell and shout, but he absolutely could not stand shoddiness. And that tournament was run in the shoddy fashion. He finished 5th, and he couldn't get up there to get his medal because there were too many people, and the announcer was a Lord something or other, and he's like, I'm sorry that these other people won't come up to get their stuff, and he's like, we couldn't get up there.
This is no way to run a tournament.
Yeah, he said, we will do it right. It'll be better than any of your stuff. And it was. North-South was light years better. His architecture was terrific. So if he put his mind to anything, it got
expanded.
Yeah, he could never stay with the status quo. I mean, he was really pushing forward.
Perfectionist.
Absolutely a perfectionist, yeah.
Restaurateur as well.
He did restaurants? Who knows?
Well, I
we
don't
can
know.
make that up.
Did the Pinecrest have a restaurant?
Yeah. Well, he did real estate.
Innkeeper. No, him and McNabb owned the Pinecrest.
They did own the Pinecrest. Yeah. Presumably they had food in there.
Yeah, I don't know if they had the dining room like now, but
yeah, I don't know.
I remember reading something and they probably brought it. You probably bring it up, but how does Tufts allow him to open a competitors?
Yeah.
He works for Pinehurst, but he gets his own little hotel right down the street.
He pretty much got his way in Pinehurst. After it started to grow and everything, they couldn't say no to him about anything. In fact, they had a couple of the pros there from Scotland didn't have much personality, or they just were from an area that the way they behaved was different than what wealthy Americans were used to workers doing, right?
Club
So they were
pros.
dour.
Yeah.
Dour, which you can imagine they're just, some of these guys were probably had no sense of humor and stuff like this. So they went to Ross and they said, it's not working with these guys because they're just freaking these people out. And Ross is fiercely loyal, so he's like, no, he's like, I'll leave with them. You know, if they got to go, I'm going with them. So he's very loyal. But after reading through there, I'm sure he went back there and talked to the guys. You have to engage with the people here. They don't want to meet some
Stoic
yeah,
Scotsman.
yeah. They're not looking for that. So see what you can do about that.
They're on vacation. They want to see somebody
Yeah,
happy.
yeah. You probably didn't mention that at Tufts, but he would have talked to them because, like I was saying, everything had to be done properly.
Right.
And he couldn't sit there and let it not be well done.
So when you say, and I'll add my own question here because it
sure.
fits in. So it says, so the overview of the book. So if as described, it's a straight chronological autobiography.
Yep.
But obviously, since golf was so important, I mean, it was his life. It wasn't important to him. It was his life. So you've got to veer off in lots of tangents in terms of
His life.
traveling and keeping a family together. And,
all of that stuff, absolutely. The golfing story is pretty much, to a large extent, known.
Yeah.
So it's the personality part. He got engaged in 1897. He came here 1899. He was engaged for 7 years. He didn't get back to Scotland until 1904. So he was engaged for 7 years before.
We went back
Patient woman.
Right.
Patient, yes. But during that time when he was in Pinehurst, the woman that was his fiancée, his wife passed away in 1922. And after that, not long after that, he got engaged to this other woman. And she was his wife's friend, but she had been in Pinehurst during those years when Ross was there, when his wife wasn't, like in 1900 through.
Oh, so he knew her?
How well? Yeah.
But he
They were there.
wife. Did he bring his Scottish wife over here?
Not till 1904. So I'm saying that his fiancée was here during some of those years.
Right.
I don't think they actually hooked up, but it would. You're talking about a 27-year-old man,
Right.
alone for a few years. And there's a vignette in the book where one of the things they did was they entertained each other. And there was one where they were in Japanese, or they were in robes dancing around under Japanese lanterns doing some sort of show, with a young woman that's attractive or whatever. And the 27-year-old guy has been alone for a while. These days,
You know what'll happen.
these days, but he was, I think probably not.
Right.
Probably
Right.
not as far as that, but still,
But it might
it's
be-
interesting.
Yeah, and especially since he hooked up with her later when his other wife passed away.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
it's,
Sort of like, I'm going to file this
Yeah.
away for future reference. Yeah. You
Yeah.
never know.
that hadn't been documented before. So he gets engaged to his wife dies young, she's 55 or something. Their daughter is 12 then. Their mom dies, but it's her friend and her daughter, Ross's daughter, loved this woman who's named Susan Aldridge. So they have these letters going back and forth between the daughter and Ross, and they're like, well, the sun's shining again because we're going to be happy again and all this stuff. And then 3 months after they get engaged, she dies. Yeah, he's at her bedside. She dies from cancer. She's diagnosed right after they get engaged. And so that's,
He doesn't have a lot of luck.
Yeah.
well, that was the hardest time. That's 1922, 23. I could see Ross bearing up, but his daughter turned out really healthy and well. I mean, for most at that age to have the mom
Two
and this other
mothers,
woman that
yeah.
he would have been really happy with.
Right.
I would have been. But his daughter ended up healthy. Anyway, I mean, one of the things about Ross is his constitution is very strong constitution because as much work as he did. In the 20s, for every year in the 20s, he averaged designing more than 2 courses every month. for 10 consecutive years. He did over 250 some
From
courses.
20 to 30?
Yes.
Right,
More than 2 courses a month
right.
for 10 consecutive years.
That's kind of sick.
That's
Crazy.
I did not even, that's the one thing I couldn't even get my head around.
Right.
It's workaholic beyond.
Yeah, but who could do that? His constitution was phenomenal.
Yeah. Luckily you had Hatch and Johnson.
If you're running a business, you build a team and you get talented people. And he had a lot of people working for him, but he had his core group of guys,
Right.
which one of the chapters is about that. And they were all superstars in their own area.
Yeah, well, he seemed to like take care of her too, because there's like a couple houses in Pinehurst that he built for these
Yeah, yeah.
guys.
I
that
mean, if you were one of his
stayed out.
guys, you were,
He'd take care of
You were taken care of.
absolutely, yeah. And if you were that good
That's the
and
loyalty.
could work, they were really, really bright and really, they could work that hard and everything. Not everybody could. I couldn't work for him because
Right.
he was relentless and demanding and your work had to be really
Who
great.
was a better drawer than him too in the beginning? Was it Hatch or the other guy,
The
Johnson?
best one was Johnson, yeah.
Johnson, yeah.
Johnson was phenomenal. Ross could draw pretty well
Yeah.
himself. And he would do that, and Hatch came in about 1920. He was a trained engineer.
Oh, Hatch was?
Yes, he went to
UMass or something?
no, Hatch went to UMass,
Ah.
Amherst. Johnson went to Rensselaer, I can't remember how you pronounce it.
Oh,
Polytechnic
RPI?
Institute,
Yeah,
RPI, yeah,
RPI,
yes.
Yeah.
He was there. He's one of the guys that created the Quonset hut. That was after Ross. He was military stuff after.
Really?
Yeah, he was from Rhode Island. He was a Commodore. He was a yachtsman. He was a single-digit golfer. He was a sportsman. And he's very smart.
Is
Yeah.
that why there's like a lot of courses in Rhode Island, Massachusetts?
Oh my
They
God,
stick
oh my
close
gosh.
by?
Yeah, well, Ross lived in
Little Compton.
Little Compton from 1924 or 25
Secondhand or-
well, yeah, that was one of the things in the book is there were a couple of things that were sort of detective type stuff. Because I looked at just the timeline, it's like, okay, he married his second wife after the fiance died. The next
Right.
year he married this other woman. So her family was well-to-do and they had that estate in Rhode Island right on the beach, which is where the cover of the book, photograph, the cover of the book is. So he's there for 20 plus years every summer. What's he gonna do in the summer? He's gonna play golf.
Right,
So I just looked at a map, I'm like, well, what's the course that's close to it? Secundit.
right.
Knowing how his mind works, whenever he played a course, he'd be like, that needs to be fixed. He would see
Totally.
things. I talked to the fellow that wrote the book on Secundit. I said, this must be an exceptional course.
Because he was there.
Yeah, he's like, you're right. Yeah, what happened was he would come down, and every year they had a certain amount of money they could spend, and he's like, okay, we'll do this or we'll do that.
So he would tweak it every year?
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
So how much did you find out about Ross at Pine Valley, if anything? Because I know he didn't do any work, but I know,
He just visited as far as I know.
that's what I heard. But
Yeah.
I got this history of Pine Valley, this little book, and it had a quote from Ross.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, that's in the book.
That is, okay.
He said there were three courses that were major championship courses in the United States. Pine Valley was one,
Yeah,
Lido was one,
okay,
and National Golf Links.
right.
He said those were phenomenal courses, but they would not do for the average golfer.
Right.
So, and they're still tough now. At the time, it would have been brutal,
Yeah,
presumably,
Yeah. Well, that's an interesting point. I mean, you probably bring it up in the book, but I mean, for the layman to say that, not that Ross could have built a Lido, but his whole philosophical bent was not to, he wasn't from the penal school of architecture. He wanted most people to enjoy the game,
Yeah.
golf should be a pleasure, not a
Right,
penance,
yeah.
blah,
Yeah,
blah,
yeah.
blah. So
Yeah.
that's an interesting, maybe somebody brings that up, you can kind of twist it to sort of, it actually shines a light on Ross's sort
Yeah,
of,
without a doubt,
you
yeah.
know what I mean?
Well, especially the 2 hours and 14 minutes.
Speaking of freaking Oak, but this is the Oakmont logo.
Yeah, I have one of the shirts.
Yeah.
My brother goes up there. Well, Ross designed courses so it would be tough for the ace player
Right.
and playable for the,
For the regular game.
Yeah.
Yeah, very utilitarian.
yeah, which is a clever,
Very
you know, you
clever.
design a course within a course,
Correct,
so,
yeah. Well, you can play number 2 and shoot 100 and have a good time, and you can play and shoot 80 and
Yeah.
not have a very good time.
yeah, he did the double layered thing where you could do
Yeah,
either way. That was one of his things. The most surprising thing about Ross's design was that, you know, everything I've ever heard since I was a kid was how natural all this stuff is.
right,
And it's more, he did a lot more shaping than I knew. It's naturalistic
Right.
instead of just natural.
Right.
Some of it's natural, but he did a huge amount of,
earth moving and,
yes,
Yeah.
all of that stuff, way more than I thought.
right,
It's a kind of a tribute to the landscaping skills that it looks.
Very
People think
natural.
that.
Yeah.
He got into that in the mid-teens or something like that.
Oh.
And because until 1910, he didn't
Wasn't doing
know
it.
so much about that, and then he got really keen on that.
Right.
His first hire was Walter Hatch, who was a landscape architect by trade,
Mm.
as well as an engineer. He was a professor at Amherst. Well, that was surprising to me. He moved a lot of land. I didn't realize that because I just thought otherwise. And I thought it was a real break from Scotland.
right.
And then I read about Scotland, and no, it wasn't. They moved a lot of land there.
What was he using to move the land with?
Well,
Mules?
yeah, mules and all that. There's some photographs in there where, yeah, they had to do it with mules.
Well, you see Pine Needles was all mules, even in
Yeah.
1928.
Yes.
Not all mules, but a lot
Incredible.
of mules.
Yeah, and they gave him, he had to do some courses where the land was absolutely nuts.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody would even think of building a course, but it would be owned by some super wealthy guy, and they'd give him a blank check. And it's
Right.
like, I don't care how much it costs, I want a course here. Shinnecock,
Oh, Shinnecock, yeah, in Groton.
oh my God, there's photographs in there, the whole thing is covered with rocks.
Oh, really?
Huge boulders everywhere.
Shenny!
I mean, if you think about it, the land is just so transitions from one thing. It's very odd.
Yeah, you played it more
It
than
was
I did.
manufactured. It was made.
Especially that par 3 by the.
Oh, the par 3's amazing.
That's
one
where
of
you
the,
put all the rocks.
yeah,
you
that's
know?
one of the, it probably is where you put all the rocks.
That's where
I'll
all
show
the
you the
rocks went.
photographs. You won't believe it. I mean, I'm talking about, it was covered.
Of what,
with
Shanny?
boulders. That
Of
one.
Shinnecock?
Yes.
Oh, all right. Well, it's on this point in Groton. It's right where,
Yes.
it's across from Electric Boat where
Yeah.
they build the nuclear submarine.
Right, right.
Glacially, you know, in the, I don't know what age, it could have, because it's right on Long Island Sound.
Yeah.
So it could have, the boulders could have all come down and just sat there.
Yeah,
So-
well, they did.
Really? And he moved it all?
Yeah, they had these funky looking, these big wooden things that look like wishbone or something, and they would tie the big, huge boulders to it. And
Really?
yeah, it was incredible.
And moved, really?
But that was, yeah, the other one, he put a course through a mountain up in upstate New York.
Yeah,
The guy's like, I need the course to go over here, and it's a mountain there.
right.
So
How do I get through a
it's
mountain?
like, just get through it, and so they blow it up.
Right, dynamite.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah.
They took the Horace Hutchinson, who was the big British golfer, out to Essex,
Yeah,
and the host, not Ross, but the Willett, who was one of the members there. He's like, you'll see something you haven't seen before. So they're on one of the holes, and it's like, all of a sudden it's like World War II, right? It's just like, and he's okay, what's that?
right, right,
And
right.
they said, oh, that's just Mr. Ross over there modifying one of the holes. Yeah, but you see, the thing is, the Holy of Holies, St. Andrews,
Right.
was manufactured.
Well, the whole first fairway was
Yes.
manufactured, yeah.
So I didn't realize that. That blew
Right.
my mind. The 18th green at St. Andrews was a burial ground.
Right,
When they went to make the green, they were pulling skulls and bones out of the ground.
right.
You ever heard that?
No, that's cool.
Valley of Sin.
Well, I don't know.
It's,
That's why, it was the graveyard, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's a graveyard metaphorically and literally.
Right,
And
but
so-
literally is more,
Yeah,
yeah.
the ocean used to wash up on the
One
clubhouse
fairway.
steps.
Yeah,
Oh, there's a picture of that, and I just didn't know that. And the rest of it, they had to whack out all of these.
That new
called them
book
wins.
actually, Rand interviewed that dude. That
Oh,
new book
Kevin-
shows you.
Kevin Cook?
Kevin Cook.
Yeah, he wrote introduction to this book.
Oh, he did? Oh, that new St. Andrews book I got.
Yeah.
The one that has I read the chapter immediately. I like the railway, so I read it on the.
Yeah, but I like Scotland, all I'd ever heard is natural.
Right.
That first and 18th fairways of St. Andrews, of all places,
Right.
manufactured.
However, if you look, but the weird thing is as disruptive as that seems to your intuition,
Yeah.
when you see that course either from the air or whatever, there is an
You can tell.
incongruity and
Yeah.
a disjointedness to it that, like, why is the first fairway
Yeah.
straight and flat
Yeah.
for 370 yards, and why does it go over
Yeah.
180 yards? And
Yeah.
why is 18? Remember when we were up in the helicopter and you
Yeah.
look down,
Yeah.
and then on 2 you kind of move out into the dunes
Yeah,
and the
absolutely.
winds, right?
It's a whole
Because there's
different-
no dune on number 1. There's no wind on number 1. There's nothing
No,
on number 1.
no,
Yeah,
no.
hole number 1.
Yeah, that's the Bruce embankment.
Yeah,
They
exactly.
went down,
Yeah.
They
They just
manufactured.
reamed a bunch
They
up there.
manufactured a lot. So
Yeah.
that, to me, that was really.
Kind of eye-opening, yeah.
Yeah, I had no idea. That was a whole different thing. I mean, the whole architecture thing was different than I thought.
Right.
May I ask a question?
Mm-hmm.
So how often did he play?
Probably less than he wanted to, but somehow he still played really well, even into. He shot his age when he was 69 or 70.
Did he? On number 2?
Maybe, I can't remember, but it was in Pinehurst. But I talked to Eric Nelson's daughter-in-law, who still lives in Pinehurst. Very nice lady. And she told me a lot of different stories. And but that was one of them. I don't know how much he played. He played really well most of the time. He played very poorly at Myopia in 1901 at the U.S. Open. I don't know how much. He would
Because
have.
golf is not an easy game for a perfectionist.
No. But I don't know how he did it, how he performed that well. The golfer in the chapter called The Golfer opens up with, we met one at Brookline in 1913, in September of 1913. And so he's the big champion, he's the folk hero of the United States. And he comes to Pinehurst in January, just a few months later, when he's still the golf king.
Who, Francis?
Yes.
Yeah.
So he plays Ross there.
Oh,
It's a big match, and Ross beats him by 5.
really?
That's when Ross, I think he was working on 17 courses that year, right? And he still beats the
Still
US
beats-
Open champ, the big hero, by 5 shots. That's how that chapter opens up. He couldn't have played as much as he wanted to. He didn't have a
Who was better, him or his brother, though? Alec?
They were probably about the same, but Alex probably played a little bit better. He probably had a little more time. They
So
were
is it Alec or Alex?
either way.
Oh,
I mean,
okay.
it's Alexander, and it's however you want to do that.
It depends on your broke.
Well, I've had people, yes, I've had people comment on that and everything. People get into micro details about how it's supposed to be written in the book and all that kind of stuff. So I spell it Alec, A-L-E-C, but it's different.
Yeah, I've seen
Different versions.
that in EX.
Yeah. You can do
Yeah.
that either way. It's still like that with people. I
Right.
still know people named Alec.
Who say Alex?
Yeah, I don't even know how
Yeah.
to spell it, but yeah.
Right. All right, so, I mean, we kind of touched on it, but if you were to like characterize his role in American golf,
He was like the old Tom Morris of America. I mean, old Tom Morris kind of shaped the game and the modern game. which
Right.
grew out of what he did. He was one of the primary guys for starting the British Open. And he did all the club making, caddying. He was involved in everything, agronomy. But what he did was he kind of shaped the game itself, how the overall thing was going to go out. And they were both religious. Old Tom was religious, and Ross was religious as well. Ross never wore it on his sleeve, but he was
Presbyterian or something? What was
yes, yeah.
Yeah.
His family was like a pure version of Presbyterianism. The traditional church had become sort of money oriented and government oriented and stuff like this, and so there was a schism in the early 19th century, and something called the Free Presbyterian Church was made, and that's what his family went to. And there's no musical instruments in that church.
Ooh.
You have what's called a precentor, which is a guy would read or sing the line of whatever the hymn was they were doing, and then the congregation would sing it after him. And then they do it. And Ross became that later on. He was musical. He was in the Door Knock Brass Band, stuff like that. But anyway, both of those, they were sort of evangelical about golf. They believed it promoted the well-being of society and the individual and the collective. They believed, true believers.
Right.
So Ross he could not stand anything, like the gambling was starting to get big, and he spoke out about that. It was supposed to be done the right way. He would speak out about it. He spoke out about a lot. He spoke out about how the whole thing, well, you went to California in 22 after his wife died. It was kind of a working vacation. They paid him to come redo the course at Beresford, which is Peninsula now, and south of San Francisco.
Oh, okay.
But he went to Los Angeles first.
Yeah.
And when they did a newspaper interview, he gave him a detailed list of how they were bungling golf out there.
Oh, the Californians?
Yeah,
Yeah.
he got to the hotel, he said, and he said, I'd like to play golf here while I'm here in Los Angeles. And the guy's like, I would like to help you, but I don't really
Right.
know how to do that. And he said, well, when you come to Florida, where he was doing a lot of work at the time, or North Carolina, he's like, before you got there, you know exactly what was going on and exactly how to play and exactly what kind of club it was. He's like, I got there and nobody knew anything.
Right.
He did run into a friend who showed him all the courses out there. Things weren't done right. He couldn't just go, hold on, we'll just roll with it,
Right. So yeah, so who would have a bigger influence in American golf? I mean, is he?
Nobody. That's who would?
Well, I don't know. I mean, I guess you could argue that we met in 1913. I mean, and I wouldn't say it's a bigger influence. I would just say more people knew about it.
Yes, there were,
Yeah.
and of course Bobby Jones has got more notoriety.
Right.
But it's a collective effort, and it doesn't really matter. But in looking through it,
Well, his timing was beautiful.
yeah,
His timing was beautiful.
yeah, that wasn't just happenstance. I mean, he foresaw that. I don't think he foresaw it would be that big in
Right.
America, but he knew that it would be plenty of work for him.
It was growing.
but he didn't know it was gonna.
Because I mean, if you could chart it from 1899
Right,
to
yeah.
1920. I mean, you did 18. You're talking about the golden age. I mean, in 1899 to 1929.
Yeah,
He lived through
absolutely.
everything.
He was in the heart of it. Yeah,
The first wave, the second wave.
but
He was right
yeah.
there.
It wasn't just happenstance. I mean,
No.
he would have been if playing would have been more lucrative. He would have focused on playing.
Right.
In the teens, the top money earner in golf playing made $8,000, and
Right.
he made about $50,000 that year designing. So he was very smart about
Yeah.
all those things.
Yeah.
One of the things that I liked the most was, and figured out after reading a lot of it, was that, and one of the distinguishing parts of him was that his mind worked very fast. With that interview with the paper,
Right.
just went through everything really fast, and there was different things. There was a letter that he wrote. You could tell it was his first draft. It was scratched out, but
Yeah.
it told they were getting ready to open a course in Pennsylvania, and they had to get the grass growing right away. So it's something that he sent in great haste. But he's in the letter. He goes into the extreme detail about all of these different things, and these are the different grasses. And in this area, we have this blend of 30% of whatever, rye and bluegrass.
Right.
Yes, exactly. These are the places where you can get the kind of grass. It's on such and such street in New York City. This is the name of the guy there. And and you can get a slightly better quality with a little bit more money at this place in Connecticut or whatever. And this is the guy's name there. And then it's just like all of this extreme, but it stands for a reason how he designed so many courses, because there's a lot of detail work.
Yeah.
But it's
But you can
there's a lot of work.
replicate
He had another gear. His mind was extraordinary. And he could do, well, like we're in horse country now. You can see the land. It's the same land, but I can picture a few holes here and there.
Right.
He could picture a whole course.
Yeah.
He could think well in advance, people, but he could also do it incredibly fast. That's what I got from reading through that sort of thing.
That's kind of an art form to do with that, to
Yeah,
see
but
it and
it's
to
just
do
like
it
an
quick.
unusual mind.
So you didn't spend a year walking the property?
No, see, that's what I would have done. And it'd take me a long time and it wouldn't be as good. He could do much better and just do it, boom.
Quicker. Yeah.
Yeah, which is phenomenal mind.
Right. Anything surprising you uncovered? What's the most surprising thing about Ross?
I would just say I was surprised at how much manufacturing went on. That I just
Right. So Earth Moving was the biggest surprise, huh?
Well, he was more likable than I thought he would be. I mean, he could be tough if he needed to, but you have like 3,000 people working for him one time. You can't be a marshmallow.
Right.
But no, he wasn't. He was warmer than you would think, especially with his family. Probably not. He was amiable with people. Within the family, he was very warm.
Right.
A lot more so than you would think. I admired him more after I finished than I thought I would.
Right.
He didn't like to do things the wrong way. I mean, it was Jim Crow era, so he didn't make any. He was no crusader for that, and it was an old school, old world point of view on all of that.
Yeah.
So I mean, he doesn't get any
Plus, he was
brownie
an
points.
immigrant.
He
Yeah.
doesn't get any brownie points for like
Staying
any
with
sort
it.
of. I mean, he apparently tried to do right by caddies and whatnot, but it was a whole different world then.
He wasn't fighting it.
No,
No.
no, he was a man of his time, and that, like the critical part, being around those ultra perfectionists who working Mach
Right.
12, I would find it exhausting pretty quick. But I mean, it's not really a put down, but as far as what would be hard to deal with, for me, that would be.
Yeah. Yeah, he might have been a tough guy. The book is visual, very visual. Tell us about that.
Yeah, there's
What do they
I
mean?
guess
What do
over
they mean?
200 images.
Pictures?
Yeah, great images that mainly from the era. Really great things, and of course the book, this company, Classics of Golf, they really great bindings with books. They were the first and only people that are called up because they do such high quality work. It's just terrific graphics and photography, full page, full double page, stuff like that. So that is,
Good
I mean, the
paper.
book would be interesting just from that.
Yeah. And so when they say this though about the book, this book is very visual. I mean,
Yeah.
if I read that, I might say, well, so what is this? You told me it was a biography. How can it be visual?
Well, it's multi-dimensional. One is the narrative,
Right.
which is the story, and the biography that I write is in a narrative style. It's not fanciful, but it's not academic either.
Right, right.
So it's meant to be
Anecdotal and-
convivial,
Yeah.
congenial, compelling read.
You want to read about the dude who sound interesting.
Yeah. I mean, it's told in a storytelling type way. So there's a narrative, and then there's visual, and then
Right.
there's informational, which is the appendices is over 100 pages. Because when I was writing his story, then there's a ton of facts that hit the cutting room floor, and you can't.
Throw them away.
Well, if you make a point about a certain kind of architecture, or make a point about this or that, you don't need 5 examples of it in a narrative. And in fact,
Right.
you can't do that with a narrative.
You mean you don't want to just keep repeating yourself?
Yeah.
Right.
But there was a lot of interesting bits that were in there, and instead of throwing them out, I put the distilled the best with the most interesting parts, these little anecdotes and factoids and different things in the appendices, so that people, after you read the narrative, there's still
other
you'll
stuff.
have many hours of
Digging.
if you want. There's the timelines over 50 pages.
Right.
There's all kinds of little anecdotes in there. So that's 3 layered.
Now, when you do the visuals, does it go, like, because a lot of times I read, and I'm reading something and I say, I wish I had a picture.
Right.
And either 50 or 100 pages later, there'll be a picture, and it'll be related to the thing that I read 4 days ago.
Yeah, no, it's integrated. And it started out, I mean, it's the last book as well. I didn't have
No, the last book worked beautifully because you would talk about something on one page,
it's the same thing.
and it would
here.
either be on the page or it would be
Exactly.
on the next page.
Exactly.
And when you're describing what you describe about Ross, a lot of which relates to golf courses,
Yeah.
you need that visual aid.
Absolutely.
I do. I
Yeah.
don't know enough.
Yeah, both of them started out not to be visual, but I'm writing in Word.
Right.
I'm like, research it, here's a photograph of what I'm talking about. So I would paste it in the
Brings it
text.
to
But I
life.
mean, not that I was intended
It's not
to
a
use
crutch.
it originally.
You just need to,
Well, Wayne, I just put it there just for my own reference. And then I was like, why not just leave it in the book? And why wouldn't I? I mean, I think it's better for the reader. So
That's
you can
absolutely
read
better.
it or you can look at it.
Yeah.
It's supposed to get more happy returns than if you just read a text.
Well, absolutely. And especially when you get into his design philosophy, because
Yeah.
you can illustrate
Oh,
it.
yeah.
You know, when I saw the comparison of, I don't remember what hole at number 4,
Yeah.
it was boom, boom, boom,
Yeah,
1, 2,
yeah,
3. It's
yeah.
like, I see this. I completely see this.
We get
And-
that. There's
Yeah.
that. You can really see that on the 9th hole of number 2.
Yeah,
It's,
yeah. Is that the one?
Well, that's
Oh,
one
no,
in
the
this
ninth
book. The
hole,
last
number
book,
2.
the last book was
What was it
10th
on
hole,
number
10th
4?
hole on number 4, where you could see 3 different architects
Right.
do the same hole.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so it's that's multi-dimensional. I mean, somebody's gonna buy the book, you want to give them as much as you can.
Eye candy.
So,
Yeah.
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 I mean, I was a social worker for a long time, so I didn't really go into like psychoanalysis, but there's
Right.
a lot, I did assess his character and all these different things and how he became and how, what his motivation was, what guided him and why he was able to do what he did and all of these, it's like, you're talking about insight really, so I don't really see, I mean, if you're gonna write a biography, you'd wanna know. If I didn't have that background, I would have wanted to ask a shrink,
Right.
what do you make of this guy?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But that is my background.
Like the
So, I
litmus
mean,
test.
yeah, well,
Yeah.
just because the biography on this most basic level is, who is this person?
Right.
This is a professional's look at it, which is not what you usually find
Right.
in a biography. So it's multi-dimensional. It's
Yeah,
a lot
yeah.
different. The book itself is all of those different things.
Right. Well, I want to ask you, was he a genius? That's one of the questions.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
I think that's a little.
Yeah, you can ask or no, it's up to you.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think that's too open-ended and,
Right.
it's kind of,
I can give you one example, though.
Well, no, I mean, I think anybody with a little bit of knowledge can sort of say that, look, anyone with the talent enough to build whatever
Yeah.
if it's 200, if it's 400, if
Right.
it's 397. I mean, Brad Klein has a number, you
Yeah.
have a number, Witten and whoever, and they all have
Yes.
numbers and they're all high, but for anybody to be able to do that is probably a pretty good definition of genius.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's phenomenal.
No.
The one example that I gave is when he designed Oak Hill, he designed it 36 holes.
Right.
And he designed it so that 18 holes could be played seamlessly in 8 different ways.
Oh, not just backwards?
No,
Ah.
8 different,
So you can go this
18
way.
hole loops.
Eh,
And that is really,
Eight
not,
different 18-hole loops?
yeah,
That's like
Really?
a
8 different-
mathematical puzzle.
that's, yeah, to me,
Wow.
that's quantum level thinking there. And he
Yeah,
did
yeah.
that when he's in the middle of doing 20 other courses.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
To me, that was the
That's
one.
and it's interesting because I've read enough about Travis, and Travis always had reversible courses. which was cool. And I think there was a tendency on these early guys to
Yeah.
kind of.
Well, you wanted to get as much as you could out of it.
Yeah,
You know?
exactly.
I mean, you didn't travel around as much, and
No.
so you want different looks. I mean, the old course was reversible.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not Steve Wynn that says, here's, you know, how many acres does it take to build a golf course? Mr. Wynn, it takes 300.
Yeah.
Okay, here's 3,000.
Yeah.
You know, this is like, they were being very economical.
Yeah,
They were
yeah,
being
yeah.
very,
And how to get the most out of
most
what they
out
had,
of it, yeah. And it goes to the point of having the most fun.
Absolutely. Even if it's a great course, even if you were at Pine Valley, and if you play the same 18 holes all the time, it doesn't matter how great they are. It's like after a while.
Still the same holes.
Yeah, you want different.
You want to be able to go from 2 tee to
Variety.
6 green.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Something to keep the nice experience, even though it's sufficient or
Right.
whatever, but, you know.
Has anybody done that at Oak Hill, ever played it?
So the different 8 different
Yeah.
ones? I don't know. But that would be a good thing for them to look into.
I was gonna say, probably can't do it.
There's a
with
long
trees.
article about it. One of the holes was a Redan.
Really?
Yeah.
Because the angle's different each way you play it?
Well, it's very tightly knit, and so you can come off a green, and there can be 3 different tees that you can go to. I have the map of Oak Hill with
Okay.
the 2 different courses that are integrated, and you can see how it wasn't. But the thing is, it wasn't just happenstance that it was like that. He designed it specifically,
You saw it and thought
which
about
is
it.
elaborate.
Yeah,
To think that through
right.
in the middle of doing,
Yeah, 50 other?
yeah,
Yeah.
that's a different level of capability level. That's
The genius question is wonderful because you learn something that you didn't.
Well, that's true.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. No, I mean, genius is thrown around, so.
I know. Well,
But
that's why
that's-
it was an interesting question to me.
Right, right.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, anybody who's designed, I mean, and not only quantity, I mean, you just throw in the whole
Yeah.
quality
Oh, yeah,
aspect,
yeah.
and then it's kind of like, well,
Well, there's a lot of golf course architects that do quantity, but
Yeah. Yeah.
yes, there are.
Well, it takes talent. Like I say, I mean, you can see when you guys are riding through this area, because this is the same land. This is horse country. I've looked at it for years. I can see a hole here and there,
Yeah.
but I've never seen that many holes together.
Envision, yeah, 16 holes, yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
so maybe I'll try one day.